Down south in North Carolina, the J-50 reports to the workshops first thing in the morning to help reassemble Ferry Battle. Lion announces she has been invited to Pennsylvania to take part in some sort of fair or historical event and leaves immediately. Having gotten a solid 6 minutes of sleep last night, the Ivatt Mogul tries to assess what needs doing in the yard today. The Ivatt Mogul finds that, aside from the yard goat's duties, absolutely nothing got done yesterday. The Ivatt Mogul returns to the roundhouse and orders everyone out. Double duty is being pulled today. The L1 claims to still have hot axle boxes, which is even more suspect for an engine that has been sitting idle for 36 hours now. The Ivatt rolls out to the yard and returns with a handy little device. The L1 has decided that the axle box issue is not that big of a deal. A Pennsylvania Railroad M1B arrives with a train from the Keystone State. The M1B asks the yard goat where he can find an engine named Lion. He has orders to bring her to Pennsylvania on a flat car. The yard goat says that Lion left for Pennsylvania under her own power a short while ago. The M1B is not surprised. Impressed, but not surprised. Ferry Battle rolls out of the workshops and reports for duty. The Ivatt Mogul suggests Battle double-check that he's been assembled correctly before entering service. Battle instead volunteers for banking duties and hightails it up to ye old fortress. The L1 has been assigned to the local passenger service to ye old fortress and is not going to complain. Lion was supposed to take her rake of ancient coal wagons, but appears to have forgotten them. The yard goat moves them somewhere else in the yard. That went well. The L1 is glad to not have to clean up the mess. The big boy comes storming into Spencer Junction. Spot is letting some passengers off as the big boy rolls up and demands to know where his caboose went. Spot says the 5600 took it to Atlanta. The big boy thunders off to Atlanta. He'll deal with the 5600 later. The M1B moves to the turntable and gets turned around for his return trip to Pennsylvania. With Lion's ancient wagons back on the rails, the yard goat enlists the help of someone who should know this kind of wagon a little better. Or not. The yard goat says to just throw the wagons in a gondola at this point. Flying Scotsman finally emerges from the roundhouse with one of the special water wagons bouncing along next to the rails. Scotsman likes his moonshine shaken, not stirred. The distant truck horn suggests the sheriff is near. Scotsman quickly runs the wagons into the yard and stashes them at the end of a cut of cars. It turns out tender engines do shunt, especially when facing the possibility of arrest. The big boy arrives in Atlanta and finds the local switch engine. He asks if there is a yellow caboose in the yard somewhere. The Atlanta switch engine goes to look. They move pretty quick in Atlanta. After a considerable amount of time, the switch engine returns with a caboose, which is not the one the big boy is looking for. The switch engine takes it back and tries to find another one. The big boy gets the feeling that this is going to take a while. The Ivatt Mogul has ordered Gadwall out on a freight train to Asheville. Gadwall prefers this to running backwards while drunk anyways. The yard goat has assembled a cut of cars going to Pennsylvania and points north. The M1B couples on and heads home. The Atlanta switch engine offers up another caboose to the big boy, which still is not the right one. The switch engine is out of cabooses and says the caboose the big boy is looking for must have gone north to Potomac Yard in Alexandria, Virginia. The big boy wants a word with the 5600. The J50 is frantically running up and down the yard tracks looking for the special water wagons. The Ivatt tells Scotsman to hand them over so they can get some work done. Scotsman says he left them on track 5. The Ivatt Mogul says track 5 is empty. That's the track that had the cars going to Pennsylvania on it. The J50 heads for Pennsylvania. The 5600 suggests that someone should probably try to catch up with the M1B or at least follow him to Pennsylvania and retrieve the wagons. The Ivatt Mogul has no intention of leaving the yard today, but instructs Mallard and Scotsman to go to Pennsylvania and retrieve the wagons, quietly. Gadwall arrives in Ye Olde Fortress and passes the L1 with a local passenger train at its destination. Gadwall knows she can handle the hill with this train and passes up Ferry Battle's offer to push. Ferry Battle follows along and tries to push anyways. Scotsman couples onto a rake of coaches for the trip north, so he'll look a little less conspicuous. Scotsman thinks there's something strange about that freight train, but has bigger fish to fry right now. Mallard has turned around and is ready to go. He asks if the 5600 would like to come along and help. The 5600 doesn't seem all that interested. The big boy comes into the yard demanding to know where the 5600 is. The 5600 suddenly seems very interested in going to Pennsylvania. Mallard and the 5600 head north out of the yard. Flying Scotsman follows Mallard and the 5600 as the whole crew makes their way north to Pennsylvania.